Hey, GRPS staff, greetings from the Instructional Technology Department, and welcome to the final module in viewing Google Classroom from a student and parent lens. We're going to cover a couple things here, most importantly being what parents can see and not see in Google Classroom, how we can involve them in our students' education. First and foremost, recently, Google has built in some functionality to provide what are called Guardian reports through Google. We're going to talk about how to turn that feature on and how that works for you from a teacher standpoint and what that looks like from a parent standpoint. And then we're going to talk about some best practices around whether or not those should be used or my experiences in the classroom. So let's start by going into one of our hours where we have students. We're going to go into people to go find our student list. In this case, I only have one. If you watched the previous module, you saw Christopher join my class. And you'll see that since he joined my class, he's solid, he's not grayed out, and that there's a button here that says Invite Guardians. Now, that's important to note because if you don't see that button or if that is grayed out, you need to come up to this bar here, to the gear, click on the gear. This is all the settings for your Google Classroom. And you're going to scroll down and you see that there is a toggle switch that turns Guardian summaries on or off. It is set by default to on for each class that you open that's brand new. If you make any changes, go ahead and click save, and it'll take you right back out to the People tab. Unfortunately, Google doesn't know parent email addresses, and currently we don't have a way to sync parent email addresses into the Google platform without there being some hiccups and problems and issues. And so if you as a teacher want to utilize Google Classroom's Guardian summaries, you're going to want to do it by request only. You're going to want to communicate with your parents and guardians in your students' classrooms and indicate, hey, we've got this thing. It's called a weekly Guardian summary. It comes to you via email. If you're interested, you can even sign up for it, and it can come to you via text once you get the first email. But I need your email, and I need a valid email to go ahead and start that up. And you have to manually type in an email here in order to get that Guardian summary there. And what'll happen is you'll send invite, and what that parent will see in their inbox will look like this. They'll see an email from you, and this says, get Google Classroom email summaries for Christopher. This says, I've invited you as a guardian in the Google Classroom. If you'd like to accept, please do so. If you're not the guardian, we're trusting them to make the right call there. And then the information will get shared on a weekly basis. The question that that most people have next is, what does that look like when it is shared? If you look back here in the settings bar, you'll see that there's a little C example here. This is going to take you to a Google Help page around Guardian summaries. And in that help page, you can see what a Guardian summary looks like for Felix. Missing work, due work, class activity from all of his different classes, what he's done, when the assignment is, what the announcement was from the teacher as far as reminding things. So those announcements you put in the class stream show up in this parent summary. And parents can just select the frequency that these summaries come into their email as well. Now, from a teaching standpoint, when I first saw this, I was super excited. I'm like, hey, I can do that. I'll manage some emails from my parents. I'll get this handled. This is going to be great. Two issues arose with Guardian summaries in my classrooms that I want you to be aware of before you make the leap into managing this part of your classroom. First of all, you need to manage this part of your classroom. You're giving yourself one more thing to do if you turn on Guardian summaries in Google Classroom, because you need to manage parent emails. If a student something happens at home and suddenly one parent can't get an email for whatever reason, and you got to change emails, you got to invite different guardians, something happens with mom, dad, parent, or guardian and their email change, you are the person that manages that. There's not district level support that's going to support that for you. And so at a secondary level, right, when in many cases you're looking at anywhere between 100 and 130 students, that's a big number of emails to manage. Now, you and I both know that we're not going to have 130 emails, but we could have a big number. And that's a big number to think about before you make the commitment to utilizing these Guardian reports. Also, you noticed on that Guardian report that it showed missing work and completed work. Here is the problem with that scenario, and it's one of the Achilles heels of Google Classroom. I can assign work in Google Classroom like this, and a student can go into that assignment and they can just click mark as done, and they don't have to attach any work. They don't have to do anything. They can just click the button, mark as done. And what the result is on your end, it shows it as turned in. You're going to go in and you're going to look at the assignment and you're going to say, well, I don't see anything attached here, and you're not going to give them credit for that assignment. But from a parent standpoint, by marking mark as done or turn in Google Classroom, there aren't going to be missing assignments that show up in on that report, on that weekly Guardian summary. And so it's not accurate necessarily. I always, as a classroom teacher, personally made the choice not to utilize Guardian summaries and to point my parents into the direction of Synergy Parent View, because that is where my report card came from. That was my accurate gradebook, and not to trust what was said in Google Classroom, to use Google Classroom as kind of a repository, as a one-stop shop, as a hub for all of the work in my class. Now, with distance learning, that's a little bit different, but especially these 5 and 6 weeks that we're going to be doing here for the end of the 2020 school year, grading is less of a focus than just participation in academic activity. And so even with that, I'm going to let you make your own choice. You are a professional. I trust you to do what's best for your room. My personal recommendation would be that, especially for this short term, the Guardian summaries are a lot of work for a little bit of return. I wanted you to be aware that they were a thing. I wanted you to see what they looked like, and I wanted to give you some background, personal experience on utilizing those and working with parents in Google Classroom. My personal solution, just kind of to close out, is I would share my students' username and password with their guardians at conferences or over a phone call if they could authenticate information for me. That way they could log on and they could look at information just like the student does, and they didn't have to fall for that, well, it's marked as done, so it's done. They could click in and see if there was work done and things like that. That proved to be more efficient for me from a teacher-parent standpoint than using the Guardian summaries. Hey, as usual, folks, thanks a lot for hanging out in this module. I hope you learned about what the student and parent experience is with Google Classroom. As always, we are here to support you with our helplines. Helpdeskinfo.grps.org has support articles on dozens of topics for self-guided learning. The help desk is available both via email and at the extension 2487. And on Thursday the 16th, actually just today, as I record this, we launched the new distance learning support line, 819-7960. That is staffed by myself, the other instructional tech team members, and volunteer teachers just like you, to help with any of your instructional technology needs: Seesaw, Google Classroom, Microsoft Teams, Screencastify, all of these things that we're throwing into motion here for these last 5 weeks, we're here to help you with. So reach out if you need a hand. Thanks for your time. Have a great day.